In this video, we are going to discuss the quantitative analysis assignment. And the purpose of this assignment is to give you the actual practice of collecting and analyzing quantitative data. So let's walk through the steps of what you're going to do. You are going to conduct a survey of a minimum of 50 people. And you can ask them questions in person. You can post the questions on social media. It's your choice. The first question you will ask them will be their age. You just need round a whole number, right? So 28, 32, whatever it is. Then you are going to develop two other questions that will give you quantitative interval data. In other words, numerical data. So you're not going to ask what's your favorite soft drink because that's going to give you nominal data. So here are some examples. And it's good if you have related questions. You're probably more likely to find some significant results. But I might ask people, how many times have you bought lottery in the past full month? Bought lottery tickets? That's one question, right? So they might tell me 0, they might tell me 20 times. And then I might ask, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much does luck affect what happens to you? And I would need to clarify, right? 1 would mean luck has little to no influence on what happens to me. 5 would mean has a lot of influence, right? So this is really like a Likert scale, but when we convert it into numbers, it's considered to give us interval data. So I'm going to ask those questions and record them. So it's really important that you record the age of the person and then their answers to the two questions and keep them in order, right? It's really important that you ask the questions in the same format because we've learned about validity threats. And if I'm posing the questions differently or changing the wording, I have an instrumentation validity threat. Now, if somebody needs some clarification on a question, you can obviously do that. And remember, you might have people, if you ask them in person, who might refuse to answer, and that's perfectly fine. Then what you're going to be doing is based on the 50 people's responses, you're going to be doing some statistical analysis. So we're going to be using both descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. We're going to be looking first at just getting the mean and standard deviation on our questions just to see how much variance there is. Then we're going to be doing correlations to see if we see any connections between their age and their response to the first question, their age and their response to the second question, and then any correlation between the question 1 and question 2. So we might be looking at, remember, we're not looking at differences in correlations, but do we see any connection? So for example, in my example, I would expect people who feel like luck impacts what happens to them, I would think they would tend to buy more lottery tickets, right? Because that whole system is based on pure luck. There's no skill to it or anything. So it would be interesting to see if that pans out in my data. Then lastly, we're going to be doing a t-test to see if we see any differences between the two age groups. And what we're going to be doing is breaking up the 50 participants based on the mean into the younger group and the older group. And we'll be doing a t-test. Do the younger versus the older people, do they differ on how many lottery tickets they buy in a month? Do they differ on how much they believe luck influences what happens to them? So t-test because I'm looking at differences between two groups on interval data. In my case, number of lottery tickets, how much they believe luck impacts them. Now, The other thing that you're going to be doing is you will be writing a paper that goes along with your data analysis. In your paper, you are going to have a literature review based on your topic where you include at least 5 peer-reviewed sources. So in my case, I'm going to be looking for studies that support why people buy lottery tickets, how maybe their beliefs impact what they believe about luck, how that impacts whether they buy lottery or not. And what's cool is you can do your questions on just about anything, and there are studies out there. It's just amazing what you'll see. So we're having you do a literature review just to get some more practice reading other studies that have been written. And then you'll also do a methodology section where you're going to talk about how you got your participants, right? What were the specific questions, all of that kind of thing. And then you'll do a data analysis section where you will analyze your data. You are going to include at least one data table in your analysis so that you get how to format a data table in APA format. And then you'll wrap up with your conclusions based on your findings and include any validity threats that came up in your study. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rubric. Okay, so the rubric for this assignment shows you that there's a literature review section, and this assignment is worth 100 points. And we're looking for, as I've mentioned, a minimum of 5 peer-reviewed sources, and that you're connecting them and the content of your sources supports the types of questions that you're asking. There's your methodology section that you explain how you got your participants, how many, where you got them from, and what you did with them, right, or what questions you asked. Then we have the data analysis section where you're looking at describing both the descriptive and inferential statistics were described and were accurately explained. So what do they mean? So it's not enough to just say, all right, here's the mean, but what does that show you, or the standard deviation? And notice that at least one data table needs to be included and in the correct APA format. Then we have your conclusion section. So you're analyzing, all right, what did you find? And you're also labeling and identifying the threats to validity in your study. So it's not enough to just say instrumentation was a threat or a potential threat, but why? And then the last 2 sections on the rubric have to do with your APA format. So this is where I should see evidence that you're using the APA presentation that I gave you, as well as your APA manual. Your manual shows you exactly how to format a data table, and obviously all of the other things that you've already done in your lit review should be done correctly in APA format. And lastly, your language mechanics. So I want to make sure I see evidence of editing, proofreading, all of those kinds of things. All right, and remember, this rubric is located under the symbol where you click on the paper and the pencil. If you open that up, you'll see a button that says View Rubric. All right, in the next video then, I'm going to walk you through how to use an Excel spreadsheet to do the statistical analysis. The good news is we don't have to do any of that on our own now. We have programs that will do that for us, which is nice.